In the early 1990s, the United States Institute of Peace initiated a series of conceptual and country-specific assessments on the theme of cross-cultural negotiating behavior. In the most recent and now 12th volume in the series, American Negotiating Behavior, authors Richard H. Solomon and Nigel Quinney offer a rich and detailed portrait of the negotiating practices of American officials.
Our approach to looking at the United States and the way our diplomats negotiate actually draws on an ancient Chinese expression from the ancient Chinese strategist Sun Tzu, who said, if you know your enemy and you know yourself, in 100 battles you'll be victorious.
It's absolutely vital that Americans know their adversaries, know themselves, and can defend America's interests.
We had done all these studies of other societies, and we decided to make Americans really effective, they needed to understand their own style and how that would affect their negotiating counterparts.
The full mindsets of the American negotiators, of the American negotiator, that we've found to be a very good way of distilling the essence of American negotiating style are the businesslike, the legalistic, the moralistic, and the superpower. The combination of them is always changing, but each of them is always present to some degree. A change of administration, say, results in a rearrangement of these four facets so that some are more prominent and some less so, but it doesn't result in the extinction of any of them.
The first study in the CrossCultural Series draws from Solomon's personal experiences while working with Henry Kissinger to break out of the decades-long confrontation with China. During negotiations with Chinese leaders like Chairman Mao, Zhou Enlai, and Deng Xiaoping in the early 1970s, the U.S. was impressed to discover that the Chinese negotiated in a very distinctive way, reflecting their own culture, history, and institutions. Solomon, upon his arrival at the Institute, published the first country-specific study of how the Chinese manage negotiations, and then went on to direct further research on the negotiating practices of other major countries.
We use negotiating encounters to solve problems, to produce very specific outcomes. And we do that often at the expense of ignoring the value of building personal working relationships.
Those facets of American negotiating behavior, deeply rooted in national and institutional and political culture, are not about to change overnight.
We need to have our diplomats spend time in these countries so that they absorb the culture, and then we need to give them much more explicit training.
The need for greater training is evident. The State Department has only recently begun to offer any kind of formal training in negotiation, and that's certainly something that needs to be corrected.
So dealing with the well-established tradition of interagency rivalry, we have to develop more consensual negotiating positions so that we, in effect, speak with one official diplomatic voice.
The basic assumptions that underlie these studies are that negotiating is the usual, if not always the preferred technique of international problem solving, and that greater understanding of the dynamics of negotiating, greater appreciation of the cultural and institutional influences on a counterpart official's negotiating behavior, and greater self-awareness will help make specific negotiating encounters more productive.